The small ship shook as it landed on New Geneva. Ambassador Zexai stepped out with tired legs. His blue skin looked pale, and his large eyes showed fear. He had traveled for 3 days without sleep to reach this human world. Zexai looked around the landing area. Human soldiers stood guard with their strange weapons. Their faces showed no emotion. The ambassador had heard stories about humans. They were said to be the best fighters in the galaxy. Today, he hoped those stories were true. "Ambassador Zexai," said a human woman walking toward him. "I am Colonel Martinez. The council is waiting for you." They walked through the city streets. Buildings rose high into the sky. Humans moved quickly around them, busy with their daily work. Children played in parks while their parents watched. It looked peaceful, too peaceful for what was coming. The council building sat in the center of the city. Inside, 5 humans sat around a large table. Governor Chen, a man with gray hair, stood when Zexai entered. "Ambassador," Chen said, "we know why you are here. Please tell us everything." Zexai sat down. His hands shook as he spoke. "The Vorthak have broken through our outer defenses. They are not like other enemies. They do not just conquer worlds. They consume them." The humans listened without speaking. Zexai continued. 3 months ago, they appeared at the edge of our space. We thought we could stop them. The Kalari sent our best ships. The Draknari warriors fought with honor. The Etherians used their mind powers. None of it mattered. Governor Chen leaned forward. "How many worlds have fallen?" 17. Zexai said. His voice became quiet. 17 worlds completely empty. No life left. No plants, no animals, no people. The Vorthak take everything and leave nothing. Admiral Sarah Zhang, a woman with short black hair, spoke for the first time. "What about your fleets?" "Running," Zexai said. "All of them. We lost 2/3 of our ships in the first battles. The rest are moving toward the core worlds. We hope to make a final stand at the Nexus Gate." The Nexus Gate was important. It was the only way to reach the inner galaxy where billions of people lived. If it fell, everything would be lost. "How long do you have?" asked Dr. Williams, the human science advisor. 2 weeks, Zexai said. "Maybe less. The Vorthak move fast. They learn from each battle. Each time we fight them, they get stronger." The room became quiet. The humans looked at each other with serious faces. "Ambassador," Governor Chen said slowly, "we have heard the stories about the Vorthak. We know what they can do. But why come to us? Your species have been fighting space wars for thousands of years. Humans have only been in space for 200 years. Zexai stood up. "Because of who you are, because of what you do when everything seems lost." He walked to the window and looked out at the city. 5 years ago, the Draknari told us about the Battle of Titan's Edge, how 3 human ships held off an entire pirate fleet for 6 hours. They said human soldiers never give up. Zexai turned back to the council. The Etherians shared memories of the Sanctuary War, how humans fought for months to protect refugee ships, even when their own colonies were burning. Admiral Zhang shifted in her chair. "Those were different situations." "Yes," Zexai said. "They were smaller. This is bigger. This is everything. Every living thing in the galaxy will die if we fail. But if anyone can find a way to win, it is humans." The ambassador reached into his bag and pulled out a small device. "This contains all our information about the Vorthak, their ships, their tactics, everything we learned before our scientists died." He placed it on the table. "The Coalition needs Earth's fleets. We need your soldiers, your weapons, your ideas. We know humans think differently than other species. Maybe you can see something we missed." Governor Chen picked up the device. "You want us to bring our entire fleet to the Nexus Gate?" "Yes," Zexai said. "Every ship you have. Time is running out. We estimate the Vorthak will reach the gate in 12 days. If we work together, maybe we can stop them." The humans looked at each other again. Admiral Zhang frowned. Dr. Williams made notes on his computer. Colonel Martinez whispered something to the governor. "Ambassador," Governor Chen said finally, "we need time to study this information. We need to talk with our military leaders and our government on Earth." "How much time?" Zexai asked. Fear showed in his voice. 24 hours, Chen said. "We will give you our answer tomorrow." Zexai felt his heart sink. 24 hours felt like forever, but he nodded. "I understand. Thank you for listening." Colonel Martinez showed him to a room where he could rest, but Zexai could not sleep. He stood by the window and watched human families walk in the streets below. They did not know that death was coming for everyone in the galaxy. He thought about his own world. The Kalari had beautiful crystal cities that sang in the wind. His people loved art and science. They had spent centuries building a peaceful society. Now it was all in danger. The Draknari were different. They were warriors who lived for honor and battle, but even they were running from the Vorthak. When the strongest fighters in the galaxy could not win, what hope did anyone have? The Etherians were the oldest species in the coalition. Their minds could reach across space and time, but their mental powers meant nothing against an enemy that consumed thought itself. Only humans were left, the youngest species in space. They had no special powers. Their technology was good, but not the best. Their ships were strong, but not the strongest. Yet somehow, they won battles others could not. Zexai pressed his hand against the window glass. Tomorrow, he would learn if the stories about humans were true. Tomorrow, he would know if the galaxy had any hope at all. The next morning, Zexai waited in the council chamber. His stomach felt tight with worry. Outside, he could see human ships moving in the sky. Maybe they were already preparing for war. Governor Chen entered with the other council members. Their faces looked serious, but Zexai could not read human expressions well. He stood up as they sat down. Ambassador, Chen said, "We have studied your information about the Vorthak. We have talked with our leaders on Earth and our military commanders." Zexai felt hope rise in his chest. "What is your decision?" Chen looked directly at him. "We are issuing immediate evacuation orders for all human settlements in the outer and mid-rim sectors. Every human colony beyond the Sol defense perimeter will be abandoned." The words hit Zexai like a physical blow. "Abandoned? I do not understand." Admiral Zhang spoke next. "All civilian populations are being moved back to Earth and the inner colonies. Military vessels will escort the evacuation fleets. We estimate the operation will take 6 weeks. 6 weeks? Zexai could barely speak. "The Nexus Gate will fall in 12 days. We need your fleets now." "Our fleets are busy," Chen said calmly. "They have orders to protect human civilians during the evacuation." Zexai felt his legs become weak. "You are running away. You are abandoning the galaxy." Colonel Martinez leaned forward. "We are protecting our people. That is our first responsibility." "But what about the coalition?" Zexai's voice became loud. "What about the billions of people who will die?" "We are sorry," Chen said, "but humanity cannot sacrifice itself for others. We wish you luck in your fight." Zexai stared at them. These were supposed to be the great human warriors. These were the people who never gave up, but they were giving up on everything. "The stories were lies," he whispered. "All of them were lies." Admiral Zhang stood up. "I will arrange transport back to Coalition space for you, Ambassador. Our evacuation ships can drop you at the nearest safe world." "Safe world?" Zexai laughed, but it sounded bitter. "There will be no safe worlds when the Vorthak finish with us." He left the building feeling empty inside. The human city looked the same, but now he saw it differently. These people were cowards. They were going to hide behind their own borders while the galaxy burned. Within hours, news of the human decision spread across Coalition space. The reactions were immediate and angry. War Chief Korath of the Draknari sent a message that reached every military frequency. His voice shook with rage as he spoke. "The humans show their true nature. We called them warriors, but they are nothing but scared children. They run to hide behind their mother planet, while real soldiers die for honor." The Etherian collective mind sent waves of disappointment and betrayal across space. Their mental voice touched every psychic species in the galaxy. "We trusted in human courage. We believed in their strength. But when tested, they choose themselves over all life. The galaxy will remember this betrayal." Even the neutral species began to speak against Earth. The trade unions canceled all contracts with human companies. The science councils removed human researchers from joint projects. Overnight, humanity became the most hated species in known space. But the humans did not seem to care. Across their territory, the evacuation continued. Admiral Zhang stood on the bridge of her flagship, watching another colony transport leave orbit. The ship carried 50,000 people from the mining world of Kepler-7. Below them, the planet's cities stood empty. "Admiral," said Commander Torres, her second in command, "the crew is asking questions. They want to know why we are abandoning everything we built." Jang did not look away from the transport ship. Orders are orders, Commander. These colonies took decades to build, Torres continued. Some of them have been here for over a century. We are throwing away generations of work. I know what we are giving up, Jang said quietly. Then why? Torres asked. Why are we running when we could fight? The coalition fleets are strong. With our ships, we might have a chance. Jang finally turned to look at her officer. Torres was young, maybe 30 years old. He had spent his whole career building up human space power. Now he was watching it all disappear. Commander, Jang said, have you ever seen what happens when the Vorthak consume a world? I have read the reports. Reading is different from seeing, Jang said. I was there when they took the Kalari research station at Proxima Vale. I watched from long range as they drained every bit of life from that facility. She walked to the window and looked out at the empty world below. The Vorthak do not just kill, they absorb. They take the energy of every living thing and add it to themselves. Each world they consume makes them stronger. But if we fight together, Torres began. We lose, Jang finished. Maybe we delay them for a few days or weeks, but we lose. And when we lose, every human ship becomes part of their fleet. Every human soldier becomes their strength. Torres was quiet for a moment. So, we just run. Jang did not answer directly. She opened a secure communication channel and spoke to the fleet. All ships continue evacuation operations. Priority is civilian safety. Military vessels will maintain defensive positions but will not engage in offensive operations. Around the human colonies, the evacuation continued day and night. Mining stations, research facilities, agricultural worlds, and trade posts were all emptied. Millions of people loaded onto ships with whatever they could carry. Some humans protested. They had spent their lives building homes on distant worlds. They did not want to leave, but the orders were clear and final. On the agricultural world of New Eden, farmer Patricia Walsh stood in her wheat fields for the last time. Her family had worked this land for 3 generations. Her grandfather had died defending it from raiders. Now she had to abandon it all. Mama, her young daughter asked, why can't we fight the bad aliens like Grandpa did? Patricia picked up her child and looked at the golden wheat moving in the wind. Sometimes, sweetheart, the bravest thing you can do is know when to walk away. The evacuation ships arrived and took them to safety. But Patricia wondered if anywhere would be safe once the Vorthak were done with the coalition. In the abandoned colonies, automated systems continued working. Lights stayed on in empty buildings. Machines kept running in quiet factories. It was as if the humans expected to come back someday, but everyone knew they never would. The Vorthak consumed everything they touched. When they finished with coalition space, they would move into human territory and find only empty worlds. Some people thought this was smart. If there was nothing left to consume, maybe the Vorthak would move on to other parts of the galaxy. Most people thought it was cowardice. The evacuation continued. 3 months had passed since the human evacuation began. The coalition's fight against the Vorthak grew worse every day. Without human ships to help, their fleets fell back faster than planned. Dr. Veltar, a Kalari scientist, worked late in her laboratory on the Coalition command ship. She was trying to understand how the Vorthak moved so quickly through space. Her people needed every advantage they could find. On her computer screen, she studied maps of the Vorthak advance. Something strange caught her attention. The enemy was moving through human space, but their path seemed random. They would attack one world, then skip several others, then attack again. Computer, she said, show me the locations of all abandoned human colonies. A new map appeared with red dots marking every empty human world. Dr. Veltar frowned as she looked at the pattern. Show me which worlds the Vorthak have occupied, she commanded. Green dots appeared on the map. Dr. Veltar's breath stopped. The green dots matched the red dots perfectly. The Vorthak were only stopping at worlds where humans used to live. Why? She whispered to herself. She opened the files about human colonies that the Coalition had gathered over the years. Each world had detailed information about its history, population, and resources. Dr. Veltar read through dozens of files looking for connections. New Geneva was a government center. Kepler 7 was a mining world. New Eden grew food. Titan's Rock was a military base. They all seemed different. But then she found something interesting in the geological surveys. Every single human colony had been built on worlds with unusual crystal formations deep underground. The crystals were made of rare minerals that most species ignored. Computer, what are quantum resonant crystals used for? Information filled her screen. The crystals could store massive amounts of energy. They could also create distortions in space if activated properly. Most species found them too dangerous to use. Dr. Veltar felt cold fear creep up her spine. She opened another file and searched for information about human crystal mining. What she found made her hands shake. Humans had been mining these crystals on every world they colonized, but according to the records, they never shipped the crystals anywhere. They kept them on the same worlds where they found them. Computer, calculate the total amount of quantum resonant crystals on all 47 abandoned human worlds. The number that appeared made her stumble backward. It was enough crystal to power a star system for 1,000 years, or enough to create a space distortion that could cover half the galaxy. This cannot be right, she said. But as she checked the calculations again, the answer stayed the same. Dr. Veltar ran from her laboratory to the command center. She needed to tell someone what she had discovered. But when she arrived, she found chaos. "The Nexus Gate has fallen," shouted General Korath over the communication system. "Vorthak forces broke through 2 hours ago. They are heading for the core worlds." Ambassador Zexai sat in a chair with his head in his hands. The Coalition's last hope was gone. Nothing stood between the Vorthak and the billions of people in the center of the galaxy. "Admiral, Dr. Veltar called to the Coalition commander. I need to speak with you. It is about the humans." "The humans abandoned us," Admiral Thex said bitterly. "There is nothing more to say." "No, you do not understand," Dr. Veltar insisted. "I think they did not abandon us. I think they set a trap." The command center became quiet. Everyone turned to look at her. "Explain," Admiral Thex said. Dr. Veltar showed them her research on the large main screen. Every human colony was built on a world with quantum resonant crystals. Every single one. "So what?" asked General Korath. "Many species mine crystals, but humans did not mine them," Dr. Veltar said. "They left them in the ground, all of them, for over 200 years. She changed the display to show the amount of crystals on each world. "Look at these numbers. No species needs this much quantum material unless they are planning something very big." Ambassador Zexai stood up slowly. "What kind of big thing?" "The crystals can create space distortions if activated together," Dr. Veltar explained. "If someone connected all 47 worlds at the same time, the effect would be enormous." "Connected how?" Admiral Thex asked. Dr. Veltar pulled up technical diagrams. "Quantum resonators, devices that can make crystals vibrate at the same frequency across vast distances. The humans have had this technology for decades." The room was completely silent now. Everyone was starting to understand. "You are saying," General Korath said slowly, "that humans built colonies on crystal worlds for 200 years, then abandoned them right before the Vorthak invasion?" "Yes," Dr. Veltar said. "I think they planned this from the beginning." "But why would they sacrifice their own colonies?" asked Zexahai. Before Dr. Veltar could answer, alarms began ringing throughout the ship. A communications officer shouted across the room, "Incoming transmission from the Vorthak occupied zones. Something is happening on the human worlds." Admiral Thex activated the main viewer. The screen showed distant images from surveillance drones in Vorthak space. On world after world, strange lights were beginning to shine from deep underground. "The crystals," Dr. Veltar whispered. "They are activating." Suddenly, a new voice came over the communication system. It was clear and calm and human. "This is Admiral Zhang of the Human Colonial Defense Force. To all Coalition vessels, please clear the areas around former human colonies immediately. Beginning Operation Galactic Reset in 60 minutes. The command center erupted in confusion. Admiral Thex shouted for quiet. "Admiral Zhang," he said into the communicator, "this is Coalition Command. What is Operation Galactic Reset?" There was a pause. Then Admiral Zhang's voice came back, and it sounded almost sad. "Admiral Thex, we apologize for the deception, but some weapons can only be used once, and some prices can only be paid by those who choose to pay them." "What weapons?" Zexai called out. "What are you talking about?" 47 worlds, Zhang said simply. 47 quantum resonator arrays, 200 years of preparation, the largest spatial distortion weapon ever created. Dr. Veltar felt her legs become weak. "You are going to tear space itself apart." "Only in the areas where the Vorthak have concentrated their forces," Zhang replied. "The effect should eliminate their entire fleet and destroy their collective consciousness." "Should?" Admiral Thex asked. "You do not know for certain." "No," Zhang admitted. "This has never been tried before, but our scientists believe it will work, and it is the only chance the galaxy has." General Korath's voice was quiet when he spoke. "You sacrificed everything, all your colonies, all your expansion, everything you built." "Yes," Zhang said. "We did." "Why?" Zexahai asked. "Why would you give up so much?" Admiral Zhang's answer came slowly, as if she was choosing each word carefully. "Because some things are more important than what any one species owns. Some things are worth any price." The lights from the crystal worlds were getting brighter. Soon the trap that humans had spent 2 centuries preparing would finally spring. Admiral Zhang stood in the command center deep under the surface of Earth. Around her, hundreds of technicians worked at control stations that connected to every former human colony in the galaxy. The walls showed displays of all 47 worlds where the Vorthak had gathered. "Ma'am," called Lieutenant Commander Park, "all quantum resonators are online. Crystal arrays are responding on every target world." Zhang nodded. 200 years of planning had led to this moment. 200 years of her people building colonies, not for expansion, but for this one desperate gamble. "Begin the sequence," she commanded. On the first world, New Geneva, deep underground machinery hummed to life. The quantum resonant crystals that had waited in darkness for decades began to vibrate. Energy flowed through ancient conduits that human miners had carefully placed around each crystal formation. Above ground, the Vorthak sensed something was wrong. Their ships, covering the planet like a dark blanket, began to move restlessly. But they had no experience with quantum weapons. They did not understand what was happening below them. In the Coalition fleet, Dr. Veltar watched her instruments with amazement and fear. "The energy readings are incredible," she reported. "Each world is generating power levels equivalent to a small star." On the second world, Kepler 7, the crystals joined their vibration to New Geneva. The resonance between the two worlds created a wave that rippled through space itself. Still, the Vorthak did not understand the danger. By the time the fifth world activated, space around the human colonies began to change. Gravity fluctuated, light bent in strange directions. The very fabric of reality started to buckle under the pressure of so much quantum energy. The Vorthak Hive Queen, connected to every creature in her swarm, finally realized something was happening. But it was too late to escape. Her forces were spread across 47 worlds, exactly where the humans wanted them. 10th Resonator Array activated, reported a technician on Earth. 20th Array activated, 30th Array activated. With each new world that joined the network, the effect grew stronger. The Vorthak ships tried to flee, but the space distortions made hyperspace travel impossible. They were trapped in a cage made of twisted reality. Admiral Zhang opened a communication channel to the Coalition fleet. All vessels maintain distance from former human territories. The effect will reach maximum power in 5 minutes. On the Coalition command ship, Ambassador Zexahai watched the displays in disbelief. "How long have you been planning this?" he asked. "Since we first learned we were not alone in the universe," Zhang replied. "We studied every species we met. We learned about the threats that existed in the galaxy. When we heard the first stories about the Vorthak, we knew that someday we would face them." General Korath's voice came over the communication system. "You could have warned us. We could have helped." "No," Zhang said firmly. "This plan only worked if the Vorthak believed they were winning. If they knew it was a trap, they would have stayed spread out across the galaxy. We needed them to concentrate their entire force on our worlds." 40th Array activated, called another technician. 45th Array activated. All resonators are online and synchronized. The space around the human worlds was no longer recognizable. Reality twisted and folded like cloth in a storm. The Vorthak ships, caught in the distortions, began to break apart as the laws of physics changed around them. But the real damage was happening to the Vorthak themselves. Their strength came from their collective consciousness, millions of creatures sharing one vast mind. The quantum distortions tore at the connections between their thoughts. The Hive Queen screamed across space as her mental network began to collapse. For the first time in millions of years, individual Vorthak creatures found themselves alone in their own minds. Without the collective to guide them, they could not function. Maximum resonance achieved, announced the lead technician. Operation Galactic Reset is now at full power. The effect was visible from thousands of light years away. Where the human colonies had been, space itself glowed with impossible colors. The quantum cascade spread outward from each world, creating a web of destruction that covered nearly a quarter of the galaxy. Dr. Veltar's instruments could barely measure what was happening. The subspace disruption is beyond anything in our records, she reported. It is affecting the fundamental structure of space-time itself. For 72 hours, the cascade continued. The Vorthak fleet, trapped inside the distortion field, was torn apart piece by piece. But more importantly, their collective mind was shattered beyond repair. Individual Vorthak creatures, cut off from the hive consciousness, simply stopped functioning. Without the shared intelligence that had made them so dangerous, they became nothing more than empty shells drifting in space. On Earth, Admiral Zhang watched the readings carefully. The plan was working better than their scientists had hoped. The quantum cascade was not just destroying the Vorthak ships, it was destroying the Vorthak as a species. "Ma'am," said Commander Park, "we are receiving reports from monitoring stations throughout the galaxy. The Vorthak advance has stopped completely. All their ships have gone silent." Zhang felt a weight lift from her shoulders. The sacrifice had been worth it. "Begin cascade shutdown procedures," she ordered. "We need to stop the effect before it spreads beyond the target zones." Slowly, carefully, the technicians began powering down the quantum resonators. One by one, the 47 worlds stopped their deadly vibration. The space distortions faded, leaving behind empty regions where the Vorthak fleet had been. When the cascade finally ended, the monitoring stations confirmed what everyone hoped. The Vorthak were gone. Not defeated, not driven away, but completely eliminated as a threat to any living thing. In the Coalition fleet, there was stunned silence. They had witnessed the destruction of the most dangerous species in the galaxy's history, but they had also seen what humans were capable of when they chose to act. Admiral Zhang called Admiral Thex over the communication system. "What is your status?" "Operation Galactic Reset is complete," Zhang replied. "The Vorthak threat has been neutralized." "And the cost?" asked Ambassador Zexhai quietly. Zhang looked at the displays showing where human colonies had once been. 47 worlds that her people had called home for generations were now empty space filled with quantum radiation. It would be centuries before anyone could safely visit them again. The cost was acceptable, she said simply, but privately, Zhang knew the true cost was much higher than just empty worlds. Humanity had revealed their greatest secret, that they were capable of thinking and planning on timescales that other species could barely imagine. They had shown that when necessary, they could sacrifice everything they had built to protect what mattered most. The galaxy would never see humans the same way again. "All Coalition vessels," Zhang announced. "The immediate threat is over. You may begin returning to your homeworlds. The Vorthak will never threaten anyone again." As the Coalition ships prepared to leave, many of their crews looked toward human space with new understanding. These were not the cowards they had thought. These were beings who could plan for centuries and sacrifice everything for a single moment of victory. The trap had been perfect, and the galaxy was safe. But the true consequences of what humanity had done were only just beginning to be understood. 6 months after Operation Galactic Reset, Ambassador Zexhai stood in the main hall of the Coalition Council on Centauri Prime. Representatives from dozens of species had gathered for an emergency session, but today was different from their last meeting. Today, they were not discussing how to fight an enemy. They were discussing how to understand an ally. The hall buzzed with quiet conversation as delegates took their seats. Everyone was thinking about the same thing, what humanity had done, and what it meant for the future of the galaxy. "The session will come to order," announced Chancellor Velmore, the elderly Etherian who led the council. "We are here to discuss the establishment of formal diplomatic relations with Earth, and to address the consequences of recent events." Ambassador Zexhai looked around the room. Many faces showed shame. Others showed fear. All showed respect that had not been there before. "Before we begin," Chancellor Velmore continued, "I believe we owe our human guests an apology." The doors at the back of the hall opened. Admiral Zhang entered, accompanied by Governor Chen and 2 other human officials. They walked slowly down the center aisle as every delegate watched. When the humans reached the front of the hall, the entire council stood up. It was a sign of respect usually reserved for heads of state. Admiral Zhang, Chancellor Velmore said formally, "On behalf of the Galactic Coalition, I offer our deepest apologies for doubting your intentions. We mistook wisdom for cowardice and strategy for abandonment." Zhang nodded but said nothing. Her face showed no emotion. "We also wish to thank you," the Chancellor continued, "for the sacrifice your people made to save the galaxy. 47 worlds given up to protect billions of lives. Such selflessness has never been seen in our recorded history." General Korath of the Draknari stepped forward. The massive warrior looked different somehow, smaller, humbled. "Admiral Zhang, I spoke words against your people that brought shame to my honor. In my culture, the greatest warriors are those who sacrifice themselves for others. I now understand that humans are the greatest warriors the galaxy has ever known." He removed his ceremonial battle axe and placed it on the floor at Zhang's feet. "I offer you this symbol of Draknari military strength. We are not worthy to carry weapons in your presence." Zhang looked down at the axe, then back at the general. "General Korath, your people fought bravely against impossible odds. Please keep your weapon. The galaxy will need warriors like you in the future." "What future threats do you foresee?" asked Dr. Veltar, who had been promoted to head of Coalition Science Division after her discoveries about the human plan. "There are always threats," Zhang replied. "The Vorthak were not the first enemy the galaxy has faced, and they will not be the last. The difference is that next time, we will face them together." Ambassador Zexhai stood up from his seat. "Admiral, may I ask you something that has troubled me since Operation Galactic Reset?" "Of course." "How long did you know this day would come? How long did your people plan for a threat like the Vorthak?" Zhang was quiet for a moment. When she spoke, her words sent a chill through the hall. "The first human quantum resonator was installed on New Geneva 187 years ago. At that time, most of our species had never left the solar system, but our scientists had already calculated that someday we would face an enemy that conventional weapons could not stop." 187 years, whispered Dr. Veltar. "You planned for nearly 2 centuries. Every colony we built," Zhang continued, "was placed on a world with quantum-resonant crystals. Every mining operation was designed to leave the crystal formations intact while building the resonator networks around them. Every human family that made a home on those worlds did so, knowing that someday their sacrifice might be needed." Governor Chen spoke for the first time. "The families knew, not the details, but they knew. Every human child was taught the same lesson. Sometimes you have to lose everything to save what matters most." The delegates looked at each other with amazement. The humans had not just planned a military operation, they had planned a cultural sacrifice that lasted for generations. "But why tell us this now?" asked Chancellor Velmore. "Why reveal your capabilities?" "Because the threat is over," Zhang replied. "And because the galaxy needs to understand something important about humanity." She walked to the center of the hall and looked around at all the delegates. "Many of you think we are dangerous now. You think we are capable of destroying anyone who opposes us. You are right to think that, but you are wrong to fear it." "How can we not fear such power?" asked a delegate from the Tri-Star Federation. "Because," Zhang said simply, "we only use such power to protect others. The quantum cascade could have been activated at any time during the past 2 centuries. We could have used it to conquer the galaxy or to eliminate any species that threatened us. We did not. We waited until every living thing in the galaxy was in danger before we acted." She paused, letting her words sink in. "That is what humanity is. We plan for the worst possibilities, but we hope for the best outcomes. We prepare for war, but we work for peace. We are willing to sacrifice everything we have, but only to save others." General Korath picked up his axe and held it respectfully. "Admiral, I have a question that my warrior's heart must ask. Could you have defeated the Vorthak without destroying your colonies? Could you have won with less sacrifice?" Zhang shook her head. "No, the quantum cascade only worked because the Vorthak concentrated their entire force on our worlds. If they had been spread out across the galaxy, the effect would not have been strong enough to destroy their collective consciousness. We needed them to believe they were winning." "So you let us think you were cowards," Ambassador Zexhai said with understanding. You let the whole galaxy hate you because it was the only way to make the trap work. Yes, Zhang said. It was necessary. Dr. Veltar stood up. Admiral, what happens now? Will humanity rebuild those colonies? Eventually, Governor Chen replied. The quantum radiation will fade in a few decades. When it is safe, we will begin again. But this time, we will not be alone. Chancellor Velmore nodded. The Coalition offers any assistance you need. Ships, supplies, workers, whatever you require to rebuild. Thank you, Zhang said. But there is something else we need more than material help. What is that? Asked Zexhai. Zhang looked directly at him. We need you to remember what happened here. We need you to remember that when the galaxy faced its darkest hour, different species worked together to survive. The Vorthak were defeated not just by human sacrifice, but by coalition courage and Kalari. Intelligence and Draknari honor and Etherian wisdom, she gestured toward all the delegates. We need you to remember that no single species can protect the galaxy alone, not even humanity. Next time, and there will be a next time, we must all be ready to make the hard choices. What kind of choices? Asked a young delegate from the Outer Rim territories. Admiral Zhang smiled for the first time since entering the hall, but it was a sad smile. The choice to give up everything you love to save everyone you have never met. The choice to be hated for doing what is right. The choice to plan for disasters you hope will never come. She looked around the hall one final time. The choice to be worthy of the galaxy we all share. As the human delegation left the hall, the Coalition delegates sat in thoughtful silence. They had learned something important about their newest allies. Humanity was indeed the most dangerous species in the galaxy, dangerous to anyone who threatened the innocent. But they had also learned that humans were the most trustworthy allies anyone could ask for. They would sacrifice anything, endure any hardship, accept any burden to protect others. Ambassador Zexhai walked to the window and looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there, human families were preparing to rebuild their lost homes. Somewhere out there, human children were learning the same lessons their grandparents had learned, that some things were worth any sacrifice. The galaxy was safe now, but more importantly, it was protected by people who understood what safety truly cost. The stars seemed brighter somehow, knowing that humanity was watching over them.